We're rolling.
Welcome back to episode 38 of the Jiu Jitsu Dummies, everyone. We're sponsored by Fightback CBD. Get 20% off your CBD order at fightbackcbd.com with code JJD. My name is Milton Campus. I'm a purple belt at a Fight Sports Coral Springs. You can check me out on Instagram at UncleMiltyBJJ. Just me and Bo again today. We're going to be joined in just a few minutes by Submit the Stigma founder and black belt, Erin Herle, so stay tuned. We're also sponsored by Technique.io. Think Cameo for martial artists. You can upload your training or competition videos and get professional feedback on your technique. Pros include Robert Drysdale, Rob from McDojo, former UFC fighter Elliot Marshall. Today's podcast guest, Erin Herle, is on there as well. We're there. You want to upload your competition or training video. We'll may actually, not every single video, but we'll actually review some of them on the show. You'll be a segment on the show if you submit, okay? If you choose us, make sure you understand that we're probably going to make fun of you a little bit. We're going to take a little bit of a funny take on it, so just going to warn you now. We have our like, again, when you think in terms of Cameo, you know, you're paying $5, you upload, and we'll review.
There's legitimate review in there, but there's commentary.
Huge shout out to Flow and Roll at flow_n_roll on Instagram. Get 20% off your online t-shirt, rash guard, or gi order with code JJD at flowandroll.com. Always go and check out their Instagram. They've got tons of custom work there. You can see what they've done for other teams. It's incredible stuff. Shout out to our Patreon podcast supporters, including our newest gym sponsors, Carlson Gracie, Broward County in North Lauderdale, Florida. You can check them out at carlsongraciebrowardcounty.com. Go check them out and tell Big J that Milton and the Dummies sent you. John Way Martial Arts in Plantation, Florida. That's johnwaymartialarts.com. They feature Wing Chun, Kung Fu, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, Muay Thai. I mean, the list goes on and on. MMA, conditioning, classes for children, teens, and adults. They have it all. Podcast patrons include Robert Walker, Frank House, Wolsey Rivera, Boa Athletics. Check them out on IG at BOA_athletics. Michael Pixley Jr., Jason Smiley, Britt Tavar, James Fisher, CJ Carroll, Mission 22, Chuck Reddoor, Roberto Santiago. Thank you guys for supporting the show. If you'd like to support the show, and what these guys are supporting the show and getting on their end is not only an awesome podcast, but you also get entered to win up to $100 worth of jiu-jitsu swag every single month. So what's jiu-jitsu swag? Stuff from our podcast store, CBD from Fightback. Last month, High Road BJJ gave away some T-shirts and some jiu-jitsu gear to Britt Tavar. So lots of cool stuff like that. If you submit questions to the show, you're also automatically entered into those drawings as well. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share wherever you're watching or listening. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to click the bell. Bing! And you'll get notifications each time. That's your new job, though. I'm not paying you any more for that. You'll get notifications each time we launch a new video. All right, guys. We're running through that fast because we got Erin waiting in the wings. Let's get Erin in here, Bo.
Let's do it.
Okay, we're back. Everybody joining us today is writer, fighter, mental health advocate, founder of Submit the Stigma, and Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Erin Herle. Welcome, Erin.
Hi.
That's a lot there. I think that's my longest intro. That you've got a lot going on, so we've got plenty to talk about today.
Oh yes.
So I was on your website actually a little bit yesterday and this morning, and I mean, you really do have a lot going on. I know we spoke a little bit. Let's start from kind of pick up the conversation from when we left off on the phone. You were traveling a bit. Were you in Canada when we spoke? You were in Canada. Are you back home?
I am. I'm in LA now.
You're in LA. And how are things there? I know, oh God, I mean, if you listen to podcasts, it's like it's the end of the world in LA. How is it really?
Really, they've loosened up restrictions mostly because of Newsom being recalled. You know, our governor. So he kind of opened stuff up, and the vaccinations are everywhere, like Disneyland, my college, Dodger Stadium, they're all vaccination sites now.
Wow.
So they're really pumping that out. But it's funny because I was in lockdown here in December and I did my whole EMT program and I didn't train. I didn't do anything because if I got sick at all and missed a class, or God forbid I got COVID and spread or something, the whole program would be shut down or I'd get kicked out. So it was just sort of like, all right, 4.5 months of just intense, emergency medical technician, get it done, wanted to go into fire. So finally I got done with that. And then I went to Canada to be with my boyfriend, and I had to get its whole exemption under extended family.
Mm-hmm.
We had to get a notarized form with a whole thing from the border control of Canada. And so they let me go through. I got there. I did my 2-week quarantine, and it was the day after Christmas, and it went on lockdown there. So it was like our only fun was either like walking in the snow to Tim Hortons or like getting a ride to Walmart, Walmart was like the most exciting thing. And I think it's still kind of on lockdown. It's like starting to let out. But then I got back here because my mom's moving. I live with my mom. So it's like, this is my childhood home. I've been here for 22 years. And we're finally moving on. And my mom's going to have her own place and it's easier to maintain. And I'm like, that's my mom's house. It's time for me to move on.
So let's go back to EMT. You were able to complete those courses? Okay. And what's next on the agenda for you? You mentioned fire as well. I mean, down here in Florida, it's, you're an EMT. You have to be an EMT to be part of the fire department. That wasn't always. I'm from New York originally. It wasn't like that on Long Island. I'm not sure it was like that in the city.
I couldn't tell you were from New York.
Hey, how you doing? We're sharing some coffee. Hey, how you doing, everybody?
Awesome.
Are we that obvious?
Yeah. So in LA, it's you have to have the EMT prior to your appointment into the academy for firefighting. Yeah. Now, places on the East Coast will actually do it as part of the program. So if you go through a recruit program, they are the ones that will get you certified. And it's just part of that, whatever it is, 16-week academy. But you get paid. So as soon as you're in the academy, you're getting paid to learn versus, with LA, they're like, we have so many applicants, right? And so a lot of the West Coast is just do the EMT, and you don't actually have to work as an EMT, but as long as you have the certification. So my idea was like, I'm not going to do EMT as a job because I did the class 10 years ago. I actually got my certificate 10 years to the day.
Oh, wow.
Of the class. So it was my second time coming around. And before I didn't even take the national test. So I never got certified. So now I actually went through with it. I'm certified by the NREMT. I just sent in my application to work within the LA County. And from there, I might work as one, or I might just continue on with something else because that's what I do. I just kind of accrue talents and accrue skills, and then I just sort of go, okay, that got too hard.
So you said you did it 10 years ago. So you had gotten started on that path, and then you backed away from it?
I did because I was a blue belt at the time. Okay. I was a new blue belt. And by that, I love jiu-jitsu. This is amazing. I was training with
Jiu-jitsu does it again.
Yep. And I'm like, okay, so what's more important, like jiu-jitsu or like anything else? And I'm like, jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
I mean,
so, I was what? I think I was like 21. Yeah, I was 21 at the time. So for me, it was more like, this is really something that I finally found that I love, which was jiu-jitsu. And I was in college, I was taking psychology, and then I changed to sociology. And then I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm going to do the EMT. Then I realized you get paid minimum wage to sit in an ambulance, in a parking lot for 12-hour shifts. And you don't really get to do anything cool because in California, you can only be EMT basic. There's no advanced EMT. They don't recognize that. So I can't do IVs. I can't administer medications unless it's prescribed to them. And there's only like 5 that I could do. So it's very limiting. And when we go on a call, it's the EMTs, it's the paramedics, it's the police, it's the firefighters. So really, unless I'm the first one on the scene, it's like, I don't really get to do that much. It's kind of like more the bitch work of it. But it's a stepping stone. It's not really meant to be a career. And it's a great stepping stone. You can become an EMT as an ER tech in the hospital, go into nursing, or you go into fire, or you go into paramedic, or, there's so many avenues. It's just not meant to be like, this is what I'm going to do with my life. So I get that. But in 2010, when I took the class, I was a blue belt. I was competing. And then not much long, I think it was only a little bit later. I think like maybe 6 months later, I switched and I went to Cobrians. So I started training more full time with Cobrians, which is like an hour. It can be up to an hour away. It's in Hollywood and I'm in the Valley. So if you know LA at all, it's all traffic. So I had made my commitment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you talked about Cobrinha. So you've trained in New York under Marcelo Cohen. I mean, these are big names. These are names. For our younger listeners, younger in jiu-jitsu listeners, you will know these names if you don't already. Look them up. But I mean, these are amazing people to be learning from. So tell me about your time in New York. So it was 2 years?
Yeah, it was 2 years. So when I moved, I actually finally finished college. It took me 7 years, but I finished. But prior to that, I started dating Gianni Grippo. So we were having this relationship long distance, but we would meet up. So if I remember one time he was doing a seminar and they paid for me to come out in Costa Rica. Or we would meet in Abu Dhabi because we both had the tickets to go there. Or we'd meet in Dallas open. It'd just be, I was working for Gracie Mag at the time. Okay. So, I mean, I was full on jiu-jitsu. And then I moved as soon as I got out of college in 2014 during that summer. We moved to Brooklyn and then stayed there for like 3 months and then found a place in New Jersey. And just from there, it was training with Marcelo Garcia I was one of the main sponsored athletes there. So it was amazing to be included with such high level. You have like Mateus Diniz, you have Jonathan Satava, which I'll say his name right, even though I call him Satava. And he has his own gym now, So yeah, Tinoco. I mean, you just have so many people there. There's even female black belts. And so it was the greatest time to just do jiu-jitsu full time. And with Gianni teaching seminars, I took over as managing. I would be the one negotiating everything, planning everything, planning the travel. So yeah, it was literally just all jiu-jitsu in New York City, carrying the wet gis on my back.
Yeah.
Every day. Taking the train in.
When I was a white belt, I'm a purple belt now. I'm going on 7 years in. Started very late. I'm 47. Started when I was 41. And I used to search for, I don't know how I came across Marcelo Garcia. I don't know how I came across this. I know the story. So I used to search like sneaky BJJ submissions was my thing. Sneaky. It was sneaky BJJ. I wanted to like the little quick stuff. My coach was really big. He was probably 5'8", 265. I'm 5'11", 235. So, he black belt smashing me. I'm a white belt, family friend. So, he was nice, but not too nice. And so I used to search those. I did my first tournament at white belt. And in my first no-gi match, I basically was doing what I thought was a north-south, but I basically put my stomach on this guy's face, and he tapped really quick. This was like, I was like maybe 6 months as a white belt. He was definitely like 2 months or less. And I was like, wow, that's really an awesome position for me. So then I started looking up, along with my sneaky BJJ submission searches, I was looking for north-south stuff, and boom, Marcelo Garcia is right there. So I have watched the same Marcelo Garcia video because you could watch it a million times and pick up like the tiniest little details. So that's my Marcelo Garcia story. I love that move. And that's like, now I'm teaching it to like some of the younger guys and the newer guys in my gym, but it's my favorite position. So anyway, let's take a step back a little bit, because we can't forget about kind of COVID, and it's so kind of relevant to kind of talking about Submit the Stigma and just what people are going through right now. So tell me about your last year, as it relates to COVID and jiu-jitsu. Kind of tell us about your little journey just in the past year.
So it's kind of crazy that I've literally become a different person.
You said that to me on the phone, and it stuck out to me that you really haven't been able to do jiu-jitsu, and it's well, go ahead.
So
I'll let you tell.
I have ADHD, so naturally I start things and I don't finish them. But I'm also very curious, and I will work so hard if it's something that I am passionate about. Right? I think that that rings true for a lot of people, but for ADHD people, doing the monotonous things like laundry and cleaning dishes and balancing a checkbook, even though that doesn't really work these days, but it's beyond boring. It's literally, I cannot get my brain to do it, right? So I could sit there on the couch all day and think, I should do this, I should do that. I won't do it, but I'll also not just relax. The whole time I'm thinking about, I should do this, I should do this. And it ruins the whole relaxation period anyways. So when I started last year, actually, a year ago exactly, I was still doing seminars. I was dating my Canadian boyfriend, and I went there for New Year's, and then I did an East Coast tour of seminars. Then I went to Florida at the end of January, and February, I did a seminar somewhere else. It seriously feels so long ago. So I was teaching seminars and I was training MMA. I had my first MMA fight in November 2019. So that took a year to finally get an opponent. It was actually an old training partner. And I had already switched gyms at Dynamics with Anthony Hardonk, Dutch Kickboxing. They have, all MMA. It's amazing. They literally, they babied me through the whole situation. When I found out that my opponent was an old training partner, they're like, all right, so you're going to fight or you're not going to fight. Like my coach gave me this whole talk and said, you are enough. And I was like, holy shit, I've never had anyone say that to me in terms of being a coach. It's always just, did you train hard enough? Did you, is your weight good? All those things. So I was really looking forward to starting this career and feeling really comfortable. And I wanted to go pro. I mean, it was sort of loose. It was like, all right, it depends on if I get a fight again, if I do the Muay Thai Open in Arizona, which I had actually signed up to do in the novice level. Because, I'm just going to get experience everywhere. And and then obviously COVID happened and the gym was shut down for a couple of weeks. And it was like, okay, all right, that's fine. And then I had actually, right when COVID happened, it was right before PANS. I signed up for PANS and I hadn't really competed much, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to get back into it. So not only was I planning to go pro in MMA, I was also going to get back on the circuit and compete, even if it was in Masters, to get back. And then everything shut down. It was like, you sit there for a while and you're like, this is fine. This is fine. I did puzzles. I did a lot of puzzles. In fact, on my Instagram, if you followed me, it was like puzzle number 22. Number 33, they're 1,000-piece puzzles. I would do them in a day because I had to just get my mind off of it. So right in the beginning, when they first shut things down, I was supposed to have Valerie Brousseau, who was helping me with Submit the Stigma. I was going to have my boyfriend, Nick, come, and he was going to help out, and he was going to go compete in PANS. Christina Barlan, who was also going to be like an ambassador and an instructor for Submit the Stigma, and my sister. So Val, who actually is really certified, she's a mental coach, and she worked with a psychologist to create a manual for corporate businesses and how to include mental health. And all she did was, translate it into jiu-jitsu because she's a purple belt. So she understands both. And so with this booklet, instructor booklet, I went out, printed them out. She was going to come, and then, she couldn't come because, the quarantine happened and she goes, I can't miss out on work. And, things are iffy. And then my mom didn't really want people there. And, with Christina coming down, all that stuff. So it actually got canceled. We're like, no problem. It'll get down to the business because we wanted to have a certification for instructors and academy owners to know what to do in a mental health crisis. There are a lot of people that suffer from mental illness. In jiu-jitsu, because it is such like you grow a lot. You have a lot of adversity, right? And so you're going to face a lot of internal things, whether it is past trauma, whether it is a mental illness, or if it just happens to be a stressful time in your life. Like you don't need a mental health diagnosis to experience anxiety, experience grief, loss, all of those things. They can be a really instant thing when you're driving, so you just slam on your brakes and your heart starts going, or you could live with that like I do. It just happens anytime. So you have the ability and with the Stigma to teach people about this. And I was like, oh my God, like I've kind of become a resource for people to connect the two, mental health and jiu-jitsu, right? And so I'm like, all right, well, why don't I actually use that to educate people? So we were going to create this whole network. And then it got shut down and it just sort of never came about because everything got put on hold because the whole thing about COVID was on hold. It was never, this is canceled, anything. Yeah. I mean, if you had an event planned, if you had anything, it was always a wedding. You were like, all right, we're going to put it on hold and then we're going to do it later. And it's like, when's later?
It's almost worse than canceling it, right? Just the unknown of when is it going to happen? I don't know when it's going to happen. give me an idea. I'm such a schedule-based person. My whole day is I'm doing this at this time. I'm doing this meeting at this time. I'm doing the podcast at this time. So that's very hard. Things like that are hard for me to deal with. Very difficult for me to deal with. I need to know what's going to happen, in the next 5 minutes, the next hour.
Yeah.
I work better that way. I live better that way. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone does, especially someone with ADHD or anything or anything. I mean, you never realize as you get to be an adult, and I don't even have full adult responsibilities. I still live with my mom. But you realize that's like, how do they do it? How do you do it? How do you, just being an athlete, how do you make sure you have the right food to eat? Whether you have it delivered or it's meal prep or you make it, or you go to the store and you buy it or you eat out. And then you have to do the laundry. And if you're training, it's a lot of laundry. And then it's taking care of life stuff. Like, is my car registration paid for? Oh man, did I get gas in the morning? It's everything. Imagine people with kids, like I'm sure you would know. It's just, how do you manage everything? It's literally impossible. So that's how it feels. And then, for COVID, it's just like, wait, so I'm the hero for sitting on my couch. And then I sat there and I was like, I don't have a purpose. I'm like a dog. Like, I need a job. Of course, I haven't had a real job since 2012. So job is sort of like a stretch. But
Jiu-Jitsu is a job if you're competing and making money.
Yeah.
It's a job. I've tried to tell my wife that.
Right? I've been trying to tell my mom that.
It's a job, baby. This isn't a hobby. It's a job.
Yeah. I swear. I come home with cash sometimes. There's sometimes cash in my pocket. So I need to have everything that's like in front of me to look forward to. And I had nothing. And it wasn't just nothing. It was literally like, I have no idea when anything is going to come back. I still don't, right? No one really knows unless you're in Florida and they're just like, do what you want.
Whatever. I just came back from Key West.
Oh God.
I came back with a cold, not COVID. I came back with a cold though. So.
Yep. So.
Cold vision.
Yeah, it's not having anything. So then I was like, all right, well, since I can't rely on jiu-jitsu because now it's illegal. And that's how I was making my money. And that's the career I was going to take. I was going to go into MMA or I was going to open a gym, things like this. And I'm like, well, these are just out. They're just out right now because I don't know when I'm going to come back. So then I'm like, I'm going to be a responsible adult and I'm going to find a career. And I watched King of Staten Island with Pete Davidson. And it's like semi-autobiographical because his dad died in 9/11. He was a firefighter. Yeah. And right in the beginning, they make dead dad jokes. And for me, it's been 5 years since my dad passed, and I've done a lot of processing since, because it was suicide and it was a lot of trauma growing up and just, we didn't get along too well. So I'm still processing all of those things, but I can still find humor. So they're like, if anyone's seen the movie, they say like, knock, knock, like, who's there? Not your dad. And he's like, because he's dead, and it's just, that's my humor, right? Because that's if you know any police officers,
you handle it that way. You're okay with that. You were okay with that humor.
I do now. Okay. My sister bet me $50 2 weeks ago to ask my mom if she found us a new dad. Because she met someone and we just joke with her all the time.
That's my kind of humor too. That's
I will pay you $50. So I text my mom and I'm like, did you find me and Morgan a new dad? She's like, what the fuck? Like, what? So,
I could handle that humor. I don't know that my mom could.
I'm definitely
so
that kind of humor.
It's how you deal. It's how a lot of law enforcement deals with stuff.
My dad was a cop. Yep, that's where I got my sense of humor from.
Like sick humor, right? Because like, what am I going to do? Cry about it? No, I'd rather laugh.
It's a coping mechanism for it is anybody who's we have a lot of military people involved with the show. We Defy Ambassadors. The show is I am a couple of my co-hosts. So yeah, and just train. I mean, if you're in jiu-jitsu, if you're doing jiu-jitsu anywhere, you're going to meet a lot of military people, and they're using it a lot for PTSD and things like that.
Absolutely,
so, we get it.
Humor and sarcasm are the saviors of life.
So, I mean, I love sarcasm. It's just like how I talk. I think also because I'm a pretty blunt person, and I've learned that I can't be super blunt all the time, because people, have manners and they.
Well, my producer and I were just talking about that before the show. We were talking about just kind of our humor, and it's just like, we'll just say we have similar senses of humor, so it's why we get along. We'll just say the most outrageous thing with a straight face, and then like some people will get it and some people won't. Some people will realize you're joking, and some people will be like, "Oh my God, are they something
but
wrong with them?"
We crack up at those reactions.
But the reaction is where we find the humor,
It's why I don't get along with dry humor,
Yeah.
because they say things and they don't laugh. And I'm like, where's my cue to
Yeah.
laugh? So I laugh at everything I say because I'm the funniest person I know. So it's like, if I'm laughing, you're like, oh, it's cool. You're okay.
Yeah.
It's your dad's dead, but like, you're cool with it.
Yeah.
Literally, my boyfriend and I play this game where someone will say something and it comes up. It's like, oh, my cat died. And Nick will be like, Erin's dad's dead.
Oh my
And
God.
he just cracked up because it makes them so awkward.
I'm dying to know something. You've mentioned your boyfriend a lot. Does he train jiu-jitsu?
He does.
He trains jiu-jitsu as well. Okay.
He does. He wooed me with memes.
Really?
Yeah, I'm big on memes.
Tell me more.
You know how like people are like, I love this quote, and then they say this quote. I'll be like, have you seen that meme going around that says this? I changed my life because of it. Like, I changed my career path because of it.
How important is that for you? I actually have some questions from men that I posted that when I posted for questions from men that are asking about, like, how do I get my wife into jiu-jitsu? How important is it, do you think, for you personally, let's start there, to be dating somebody that does jiu-jitsu? Is it a factor for you?
It was a prerequisite for a very long time, because especially not being when you're a black belt, it's different because you're like, you don't get like fanboy anymore. You don't, you know what I mean? You're kind of like, all right, I've been in this for a long time. I've met a lot of people. I know all the people, but when you're coming up, it's like, oh my God, there's so-and-so. And wow, I want to be just like her. And so he still has that. He's a blue belt.
Okay.
Should be a purple belt. And I've told him this, but COVID, but he sent me memes. So he would start sending memes, and I randomly was like having boy trouble. And I was texting him, and he's like, basically like he sent me like, yeah, get that D, and I was like, thanks, man. Thanks so much. And we were buddies, and he was sending me memes, and then I would send him memes, and we would talk a little bit here and there. And then I realized, you're in Niagara Falls, and I'd always wanted to go to Niagara Falls. I had this ex that had family up there, and we had this whole trip planned, then we broke up. So it was one of those things I just always wanted to go. And he was like, yeah, I live in the Falls. And I was like, that sounds so cool, the Falls. So he's like, yeah, I train at this gym. And he goes, we just had Fionn Davies out. And I'm like, oh, so you guys, you do seminars. So I'm like, well, the only way that I travel normally, people would be like, hey, you want to come here? And I'm like, get me a seminar to pay for it. And I'm there. So I was already visiting my friend Val in Toronto, and I took the train down and did a seminar at his gym. And from then on, just that weekend, we hung out like 24/7 during those 3 days, and we got along. And then I came back 2 weeks later, and just it started, started dating. And then, I was seeing it like every month. And then of course, I never, ever would have expected to be in a relationship with like a long distance relationship I've had, but to have him in another country where the border is closed. Mm-hmm. Like if you would have told me, be careful, the border's going to close soon, I'd be like, what? That's never happened. So it's been a serious process, but through it all, I mean, we've really, really, really gotten to know each other better.
Since you've done jiu-jitsu, have you dated anybody that didn't do jiu-jitsu? And I have a point to this question because I'm going to kind of talk about my wife in a second, but have you ever dated somebody that didn't do jiu-jitsu since you started jiu-jitsu? Never?
And maybe when I was a white belt. Yeah. But no.
I've told this story before. Yeah, I've told this story before, and I wasn't joking when I was talking about. I was kind of joking about telling them you can make money from this. I have a day job. I work in the marketing field for a really long time. It's why, again, sounds like a broken record to our listeners, but it's why the podcast is successful, because we've marketed it correctly. We didn't just put it out and hope that it go fly, a young little podcast. It just doesn't work like that. A lot of people don't realize that. We are probably one of the most successful podcasts where we don't have a famous person involved with the show. We were a round table of 3 to 4, maybe 5 people, and we just talk about jiu-jitsu in a room, and that was the podcast. COVID changed it to more the interview style. We're going to get back to that one day where we want you guys coming in. We want to have that round table and just people just like talking about jiu-jitsu back and forth. But so as it relates to my wife, and again, I've told this story before, is I was training 2 hours a day, 5-6 days a week when I first started. And again, in my 40s, day job, training 2 hours at night, going to open mats on the weekend. My wife was like, this was my girlfriend at the time who I was living with. She said, are you crazy? This just can't happen like this. You're never home. And then she found kickboxing. So
Wow.
she got addicted to so she couldn't get her to do jujitsu. She just never wanted it. It was not for her. She came and watched me train. She watched me compete. It wasn't for her. But she just started going to all these. She just got into fitness. She wanted to get into fitness. She started doing yoga and Pilates. She tried everything. She found a love in kickboxing, which, I always had a bag in the house, and, or see me at the gym, or we'd go to the gym together. I'd hit the bag. She'd be doing the weights. But she found a place, and she found what I found in jiu-jitsu was the camaraderie. She has a group of girls. She goes to train on Saturdays and Sundays, and they go out to lunch afterwards. She found what I found, and now she understands it. If it wasn't for that, we would still have friction about jiu-jitsu. Now it's like, you're not going to train today? You should go train. Well, why don't you get with your friends? Because she encourages me, but if it wasn't for that, it would be we'd have a lot of friction in our relationship, or, I would have had to quit jiu-jitsu or quit her. That was kind of almost on the table at a point where, but then she got into it. So again, that's why I was asking the question, because, it is very difficult you could do jiu-jitsu, but for jiu-jitsu to consume so much of your life, I have, again, the day job, the t-shirt website, the podcast. There's a lot of work that goes into the podcast. We started a foundation, and now she understands that passion. And without that, it would be very difficult to do those things. And now she's, one of my biggest supporters. So, again, on the reason for the question is I always like to understand other people's relationships. And if they've gone through what I have, and if they see the same thing, it's very difficult to be so passionate about something, and then for the other person to totally not understand it.
Well, you struck out with that. Yeah. When I was thinking of the grandiose idea of my life, I'm like, well, I don't think I could ever date someone who worked a 9 to 5. Unless it was like further down the line. But with my gallivanting and nomading around the world, it was like, I'm not the type of person that's going to wait until my man comes home. I like to be with my men all the time. It's just how I am. I like them to be like my best friends. So I was like, well, I'd be open to, someone who was really competitive in like CrossFit or rock climbing or something to that effect that had a community and similar. So it's not like I was like, I have to have someone who does jujitsu, because obviously that gets complicated. It's going to have to be like a long distance relationship, because you can't date within the gym, because that screws up everything. So having someone that could be passionate about something like your wife was really important. And it just, of course, I didn't really leave the jiu-jitsu world. So it's not like I would really run into anyone. I dated someone who was in MMA, who was in the UFC. And it was like, I learned a lot. And I think that also attributed to my transition to MMA, because I saw the lifestyle and being very like interesting and having something new to train every day. But being a girl is very difficult, because we are looked down upon if we hook up with anyone in the jiu-jitsu community, or if we lust after any of them, right? It's different if it's instructor, right? That's completely different in your gym, all that stuff. But I mean, if you, being a female, and you see these hot men around you that are single and like really trying to get rid of their testosterone, and they're going to ask you out. And it's very, very easy to say yes. And I think having that with a female, it's like you can't really be mad at us. You can't say that we're the Maria Tatami or whatever you want to call us, because I mean, if you were surrounded by hot dudes all the time in the competition scene and they wanted to get to know you a little more, like there's really nothing wrong with that. It just so happens that there are a lot of hot men in jiu-jitsu, and there's so many females.
Thank you so
But
much.
I never had these problems. I never experienced.
There's a
being
wave.
Yeah.
And especially with me being like always wanting to be known, I always wanted to be someone in jiu-jitsu. And so I'm interviewing all the best guys, and then I'm traveling to freaking China to go follow ADCC for Gracie Mag, or Abu Dhabi, or this or that, so when you're in the community and there's other people there, yes. So that's another aspect. Being a female in jiu-jitsu has its own kind of things that are more difficult than a man when it comes to mixing life and jiu-jitsu. Not many people understand, right? And you can attest to that. Just people in general, men, women, family members, some of they just don't understand. So imagine trying to date someone who doesn't understand.
I did it.
Yeah,
I did it. We wound up getting married. And again, thankfully she found something, and I still do a lot more jujitsu and jujitsu related things than she does kickboxing related things.
Mhm.
So we're still kind of that, like, spend more family time, so I still get that, it's just like any other relationship. We want to spend time together.
Yeah.
I definitely wish she would and have invited her to be more involved in the show, and maybe you can help. It's not her cup of tea. She just doesn't want to. But again, if it wasn't that she found that, and it was equally as passionate about a martial art, things would continue to have been difficult. But I was definitely lucky. Let me take a step back real quick. So, what got you into jiu-jitsu? Did you ever do any other martial arts before jiu-jitsu? How did you get your start?
I was a hardcore music enthusiast, and I always was kind of like intense. Okay, I've always been an intense person, and that's also because I had mental illness and didn't know it. But there's something about hardcore. It's like I like hardcore punk, right? And so punk, you think like Black Flag, Minor Threat, things like that, who are usually it's political, but they're basically screaming about injustices and stuff. So that I found was very passionate, and there was obviously more men than women. So I was okay with that. And I would go to shows, and there was this record label called B9, and they had a forum. And it was where everyone it's kind of like shit posting all the time, but you still had a camaraderie. And there was a guy that was like, I'm doing a jiu-jitsu tournament in California, and I'm selling cookies to get myself out there. This was in 2008. Hands. This guy, Kenny Savercool, who still trains under Ryan Hall. And he was coming out, and I was like, you know what? Do you want to hang out when you're out here? He's like, yeah, sure. So I picked him up in Hollywood, went back to the tournament to check up on like his teammates or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, whatever this weird wrestling sweaty dude stuff you do. Like, check it out. Soft females, the brown belt versus a black belt. And because of that, back then it was just combined. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, they look so tough, and they're doing a man's thing. And I was like, that's really cool. So I didn't try it until a year later, but there was a gym right near my work, and it just happened to be Hamala Bahal because, hello, LA. And I was really very like spoiled from the beginning, and I started competing within 3 months. And I just got hooked, it was so fun. And I think just having the influence of someone like Hamala, who was already so deep into the competition scene, it was like, you look up to that person. You're like, I want to be just like you. One time he goes, wow, you're so flexible. And immediately I was like, does that mean I'll be good? Am I going to be good?
Looking for that
and he's
validation.
Kind of like, if you want to, if you try hard, yeah. If you train a lot, sure. So I saw that my next stripe, because we had like the attendance cards, and it was like, you have this many until you get a stripe. So I counted how many days, and I came in like 2 times a day. So I was like dead tired. I almost like passed out in class. He's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, go rest. I was like, I'm going to get a stripe. He's like, that's a suggestion. Doesn't mean that you're just going to get it, Yeah. So of course he delayed it for like a couple weeks, but, so it was always that that little thing to just drive for, whether it was the tournament or a belt or a position or, things like that. It was always fun to have something new to challenge myself. And like, I felt really cool. You feel really cool when you do it. So it wasn't like some weird LARPing stuff, with like sports. It was definitely something that you could like go tell your friends, and they didn't really care, but you still felt like they should care, because it was like, no.
I think about the meme. There's always a meme. I think it's from like the 300. Like, it shows like a guy putting on his gi, and then a guy from like the movie The 300. Right? Yeah. And I'm not even joking when I say I could feel really shitty and go put on my rash guard and be standing in front of the mirror and just catch myself and be like, you feel it. It's just this feeling that you just want to, you feel like you have this power. What you're about to go do, you're about to battle with these other people and, quote unquote, kill each other or break each other's limbs. It's an amazing feeling. I still get that to this day. I mean, I put on the gi, and it's just like, you put that belt on, and, just, you feel so good about yourself.
I'm like, I look at myself and I go, oh, so tough. And, and normally females don't want to be seen that way. They don't really want to feel that way. They might want to feel confident. They might want to feel like, no man can talk to me that way. But I'm more like, no, I can beat people up.
Oh, you've
like,
got my wife, haven't you?
Really? Were you that similar?
My wife is more than like, don't you talk to me like that. I'm a strong woman. She has she's had a bumper sticker on her car for years, like smile. You're following a woman. Something I forget it. I'm not doing it justice, but like women empowerment bumper stickers on her car, and I was like, okay,
yeah.
all right.
I know. To me, I took a long time to really embrace the women empowerment part because I'm like, nah, dude, like I don't want a pinky. I don't want to be a female in jiu-jitsu. I just want to be an equal. Yeah. And I used to always say that, you put the gi on and you're like androgynous, right? Yeah. Like for the most part, unless you got like some tight ass gi or just wearing a sports bra. I mean, I just blend in. I wanted to be one of the guys. So I didn't really have that. Like, I want to be a strong, powerful woman. It just so happened to be that I became one. Right. Yeah. And then it was like, oh yeah, any woman that wants to do what I do, sure, do what I do. Like it was never about like being a singular female in a male dominated sport. It was always about, I feel tough and I want to beat people up. And you kind of question yourself and you're like, am I just like a dyke lesbian? Am I like, like I've had that conversation with myself so many times, and I know it's not PC to say, but like you kind of get into that. You're like, man, I've been a tomboy for a long time. And I was like, no, I still like men. You question, I'm like, who am I? What am I? I'm not like the typical female in a male,
Have you had to deal with the creepy guys in gyms? I mean, I've got to assume that it's just a numbers game. It's going to happen.
There's a guy, Hector Vasquez. He owns the Cobrinha affiliate in Vegas, and he's got all the UFC fighters coming through there training. He's building up, kids to be MMA fighters now. Like Khabib stops by, really great guy. He got his black belt so fast. He was winning all the Masters Worlds. He was small too. But the first time he ever came in, I was already like, I knew the Cobrinha system, and he came and trained. And I remember he was complimenting me because I partnered with him, and he started complimenting like, oh, wow, you do that sweep really well. And I got really creeped out because I'm like, you're not supposed to compliment someone on the mat. Like, I don't really like compliments that much as it is. Makes me feel weird. But when you start doing that, I'm like, dude, what is your intention? I don't even know you. So I went over to Cobrinha's. I've done this before at like Homelos, but never at Cobrinha's. And it was time to roll. And I go, I don't want to roll with that guy. Like, he's just making me feel weird. Like he likes me too much or something, Turns out he ends up being one of the best training partners and beats me up like no problem. Makes me cry. It was
coming from a genuine place. It wasn't coming from.
He was, but that's just how he is, whatever. And I got a weird feel. But I mean, there are times. There was one time I rolled with a guy that I knew was a visitor at Marcelo's, and I said, no, I didn't even say anything to him. We just rolled. We were doing specific training, and I noticed that he wasn't able to pass my guard, so he just used all of his strength, like Gabby Garcia side control Kimura type of thing. Mm-hmm. And then I went over to get some water, and I talked to Paul Schreiner, who was leading the class, and I go, that guy's an asshole, because I'm someone who lived at the gym, right? So I wasn't speaking to a professor at that point. I was just speaking to just Paul, I'm like, dude, that dude's an asshole. And he goes, I think it's kind of awkward. He goes, then don't train with him. And I was like, okay. Following week, I get called into the office, and Marcel was like, Erin, you can't be calling people assholes who come into the gym. And I was like, I didn't say it to him. I didn't. I'm just, I just say stuff or whatever. But at the time, it was like, it wasn't necessarily that my ego was hurt. It was just like, man, I can't deal with this ego thing, because if you're gonna get mad because I have some technique and you need to put in strength and all that stuff to try to to actually, beat me and look cool in front of other people, I'm not the person to do that with. Yeah. I'm not the gym keeper or whatever you want to call it, So yeah, there's obviously instances, but it's learning how to be social, which I used to say I wish I could do jiu-jitsu alone, because it's very hard to be social with people. There's a lot of different personalities, a lot of different egos. And so, yeah, it's when you roll with someone or when you do technique with someone, if you don't feel comfortable speaking and being like, hey, did that feel right? Hey, do you think I should do this better? Like, I've had people go, I don't know. I'm like, well, you're useless,
See, that's I talk about that being one of my favorite parts of jiu-jitsu is feedback. I like feedback. I love coaching. I love training at my regular job. I've always kind of fell into that role. Just love to impart knowledge and not in a cocky way. It's kind of like sometimes I want to grab somebody and be like, oh my God, if I want to tell you this so bad because I know what I went through not knowing this. Like, just take this. It's gonna help you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm so eager to give, but that's why I love to train, and I love when somebody asks me questions. It's other than the act of doing jiu-jitsu, it's one of my favorite parts of jiu-jitsu. Is I'm in a school now where we have a big kids program, and a lot of those kids now. That he's had the program for, I've been with him 5 years, maybe like 7 years, 8 years since he's opened the school. A lot of those kids that started at very young ages are becoming men or are 16 and joining our classes. And I love rolling with those guys when they ask questions. You know, they'll ask, "Hey, how did you do that?" Or, "Hey, did I do that?" Like, that's my favorite part. I just love having that conversation.
That's why I'm there.
Yeah. It's
you know,
fun.
you're rolling with someone, and it could be someone that's a peer, you know, and they almost got that pass, and then you knew what you had to do. You either escaped the knee, or you let go of that grip, or whatever it was that saved you. And it takes 2 seconds to say, "Hey, man, you almost got that. If you would have just done this tiny thing, you would have gotten that pass." And that might be the key that's going to make sure that they complete that pass in future matches. Yeah. And I just think like it doesn't take that much. And maybe some people don't see things like we see things, you know, like where we can do that, where we can say, "Oh, just this little fine tune is going to be good." And a lot of people, I've realized that they don't want to be coached during a roll. They don't want to be coached after a roll. Maybe they'll say, "Hey, teach me later after the class." Or if I have a question, like, ask me after. I'm not going to remember it. I don't remember what happened.
I actually now, like, I'll actually, especially to other adults, my training partners, I'll always ask if I can tell them something. Like, "Hey, can I show you something? Do you mind?" And everybody knows me, and you know, so many of my training partners have been on the show, so they know that, like, I know that some people don't like to take information that way. Like, they only want to hear it from the coach, and like, "Hey, you're just a purple belt," whatever. In my situation, so "Do you mind if I show you something? I know not everybody likes to be coached. Do you mind?" You know, and most of the time, most of them will be like, "Yeah, okay." And there's a little part of me that's like, I want them to learn that because I want them to make it harder for me on the next roll. If I can show you how to do that, then I got to get better at defending that in another way. Or if you get the pass, then you're putting me in a more awkward position. I do want you to get better. So there's like I'm at a loss for the word. It's like I'm punishing myself almost in a way. You know, I'm going to help them beat me or beat me up, you know, more or better later. So, but I enjoy that. You know, masochistic. Like, is that the word, right? Like, you know,
masochist.
I'm a masochist. Like, I want them to do. I want them to hurt me. I want them to be able to. I'm giving them the keys to the locks that somebody maybe didn't give me or it took me longer to learn, and it's going to make me work harder. You know, it's a way of making my training more difficult. So anyway, that's the way I do it. But not everybody's good with that information. So, you know, I'm going to ask. But that's why I like the kid, like the guys. We have a heavy female and male presence. I train in a fight sports in South Florida, and it's a husband-wife team, Felipe and Sofia Amarante.
Okay.
Do you know Sophia? Do you know the name? Okay. Yeah. So we have a heavy female presence as well. So you know, it's always, you know, there's all these kids are coming up, and you know, again, I never ask a woman to roll. This is me. I'll never ask a woman to. If a girl wants to roll with me, she can come roll with me. But I'll never ask like I would ask a male blue belt. I don't know if that's right or wrong of me, but I used to. But then I kind of felt like I would hear from some of the girls like that they thought like a certain guy was like, "Hey, he's a little scuzzy," or "He smells," and I was like, maybe I'm going to stop asking them to roll. But I'll always accept if they want to roll with me. I will roll with anyone. You know, kid, male, female, kid, whatever. But I stopped asking because I didn't want to be. I was like, I don't know how that comes across, even from a nice guy. Right. I've got 2 daughters. Right. You know, everybody knows that about me. But I just stopped asking. But I'll let them, you know, approach me if they want to roll.
You're also bigger, right? So
yes,
it's that short.
Kind of large.
Sometimes people feel like if they ask you to roll, that you're like, "Oh God, if I turn this down, either I'm a loser or I'm an asshole," or you know, there's various things that goes through your head if you deny a roll. And so that's kind of actually with lower belts asking higher belts. I wouldn't say I'm shy, but I'm shy, I guess, a little bit introverted, awkward, you know. So if I haven't connected my awkwardness with your awkwardness, I get scared and I just don't talk to you. Mm-hmm. So like my regular roles would literally be like, "Yo, Brian, get over here," you know, and we joke or whatever. But if it's someone new, it's like, man, especially if I go to a visiting gym, I hate that they never ask me because even though I'm a black belt, I'm like, I don't know who to roll with.
You should be.
Maybe I'll go to the professor and say, who would be a good role for me?
Mm-hmm.
But it's very hard to not be asked. So yeah, I get it. If I'm teaching the class, then I'm the professor, right? But if people call me professor, I get kind of like weirded out because I don't teach regularly. I teach seminars, meaning I go to entertain. I don't go to be your coach, right? I may coach you for the day. I may teach you what I know, but I don't know your journey, and it's not part of my journey. So for me, especially when I go train somewhere else, I'm like, please ask me. I want you to ask me. Like, I'll turn you down if there's for whatever reason. Of course, I won't say it in a mean way. I'll usually be like,
your gi stinks. Get away from me.
Yeah, right. Just something, and so I never
smell your belt from here.
That belt is horrible.
It's so pretty much. I mean, I the best compliment is you smell good, and I will never hold that back. I love all these people. I'll be like digging my face in their gi, like trying to pass like a knee slice. And I will literally stop in the middle of the roll and be like, "Oh, you smell great." Are you a talker during? Are you like a talker during a roll? I'm a talker in general. Yeah, I can't stop.
I love to joke. I'm almost always smiling, even if I'm in a bad position. I'll be like, "Oh God, I thought we were friends." Somebody got that on video the other day of me saying those words. Somebody was like trying to take my arm off, and I'm like, "I thought we were friends. What's going on?" And half of it is that's just the way I am, and I never shut up. And I love to joke. And then the other half is just a little, maybe 5% of that is me trying to distract him so that he'll lose the position. So
my thing is, don't get worked up right now. Like I'm going to giggle while I sweep you so that you don't get mad.
Yeah.
And then it's a fun time for all. I'm like, I did it again. And it's it makes things sort of like looser. Yeah. Right. Obviously I've been in really high level training academies and training rooms or whatever you want to call them. I've trained with some of the best in the entire world. So, but again, there are times when I'll roll with a black belt, legend world champion, and I'll be going for his foot, realize like, all right, this is a large foot, and I don't think I'm ever going to toe hold this guy. So I'm just going to hold his foot up to my ear and be like, hello, it's for you.
I'm going to use that one.
I've done that before. And, or if someone stacks me and my foot's there, I'm like, hello. I can't help it. It's just an alleviator, I guess, of tension. But again, it could also create tension when you're sitting there like training for worlds and this dude's trying to win another black belt world title and you're not taking it seriously. So there's
I know who I could joke with in the gym and I know who doesn't.
Yeah, just
one of my co-hosts, Junior, whenever we roll, I'm like this with everybody, but with him, he ignores it. As soon as we stop, then he's friendly, happy-go-lucky. But when he's rolling, he's all business. I'll still try to joke with him. Like I think I'm on a mission to get him to crack in the middle of a roll, like to get him to laugh. But he never breaks. I have a question. I want a piece of advice as we're talking about the rolling and asking somebody to roll. The way I do it now in my gym, and I actually do this when we partner up too. I know my training partners, we're friends. Again, some of them are on the show. When we go to partner up or when it's like grab somebody, hey, free roll or just we're going to roll, I never ask anybody to roll. I never ask anybody to partner. I pretty much walk over to the same little box that I walk over. It's like kind of my corner. I'm not saying that I own the corner, but everybody just kind of knows I go to that corner when I'm there. I go to my little box and I just sit down and I wait. And sometimes it's funny because my coach, Felipe, he'll start singing, all by myself.
Yeah, dude. Oh,
and so it's a little bit of a joke, but because I only really, not that I only want to roll with people who want to roll with me. I feel because I'm usually one of the larger guys in my class. Of the men, I'm almost always the biggest guy. We've got some newer, younger guys that are probably like at my weight. The young guys work out a lot, but I usually, especially with rolling, I'll wait for somebody to come to me. I could be done with the roll, and then again, I sit in my square and I wait. Am I doing so? I don't want to feel like I am bullying anybody because when I'm talking about I'm 235, I'm like a lot of the other guys are like 170, 165. Like they're much smaller than me. Am I taking the right approach? Should I not worry? Am I overthinking it?
I would say that we're both marginalized, right? You're a big dude and I'm a small female. So obviously certain roles are not going to be beneficial. Yes, you can learn something from everybody, but in a technical role, I feel that some matchups are just a waste of time. So if I go with like a 6'3" guy that's like, 270, I mean, I'm going to literally try to climb all over him and we're just going to laugh about it. It's not really an intense, good training role. I found that I would find my usual people. And that can be distressing because if that person isn't available or if her best friend comes to train and they pair up, I just stand there. I have literally been like reprimanded. Okay. There were times in competition classes, Corinne would be like, Erin, where's your partner? And I'm like,
nobody wants to roll with me. The same thing.
And then there was one time where it was like, the rule was, okay, if you can't find someone to roll with, then go in threes and just split up the time. Okay. And I overthink everything. I will literally be like, but I just rolled with her. I don't want to roll with her again because I did well in that roll. I don't want to have to repeat it, or I just completely overthink things in my life. So I remember I go over to Lance and Stephanie. I hadn't rolled with either in that class, but Sarah, I already rolled with, and she was sitting over there. So I go, Lance, can I just come in with you guys? And he's like, I'm trying to train hard for pants. And he's like, just go roll with Sarah. And I was like, but I already rolled with Sarah. And he's like, well, I'm trying to win pants. So I look at him and I go, you're not the only one who wants to win pants, Lance. And I go off the mat and I go sit in the chair in the waiting room part and just start crying. It's just, I've been there. I've done that. I've done multiple things where it probably didn't look good. It probably wasn't the greatest response, but it was how I felt. And, things, especially for competition and stuff. But nowadays, people will ask me because I'm a high level. Or the guys will use me as a rest role because I'm smaller and they can just overpower me. For the most part, I wait for people to ask. But in those situations where it's like, what happens if everyone pairs up and you don't have anybody? It's like you sit there and you're like, should I just pretend like I had to go to the bathroom? Should I just like try to go in threes? Should I ask? So for you, since you train at the same place every time, you should know the people that you can train with, and you should always ask them. What we used to do, and also at Unity, I trained at Unity for a bit, and what they do, which is so nerve-wracking, besides keeping the windows closed and making it hot as hell, they would tell you in between the drilling and the training to pick your partners. So literally, everyone goes around, goes, oh, first, third, my third. Oh, you're my fourth, okay. And it's super stressful, but at the same time, it creates this good schedule, I guess, for everyone to be on. And then when the next roll happens, you're just like, all right, there's my dude, there's my dude, there's my dude. So people have different ways of going about this. There are also classes, which I love, when the professor or the instructor chooses and says, okay, everybody line up. All right, go with you. You go with you. I'm like, oh my God. Because I don't like rejection. Yeah. I don't in any capacity. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I don't ask. So what I suggest is having your people and then counting them out. Be like, hey, Brian, you want to go number one? All right, cool. Hey, Stephanie, number two? You just figure out that role. Now, if you were to ask someone, it's more, and how they react is more a reflection of them than you. You obviously have a good reputation at the gym, right? I mean,
I mean, well, I'm a big guy. I mean, again, it's like I think a lot of times I try to tell people I'm big, and again, this is not a cockiness. I am
squishy. Sometimes
I have to. I'm working just as hard, especially when I'm rolling with somebody small. As a big guy, and look, I've got a little bit of a gut, but I'm in relatively good shape. I've got the belly. I'm sometimes with a smaller person, I'm working just as hard to not like put all my weight on you. Like I'm not going to roll with you the same. I'm not going to put all of my weight down on you in certain instances because I know I may hurt you. So I kind of feel sometimes, again, with a smaller person, and this is part of jiu-jitsu, and I know it, but I don't think that they realize sometimes I'm working just as hard, like to go at not 50% effort, but like 50% of my weight. Does that make sense? Like I may not, let me not put all my weight on you because I'm really going to hurt you, Mr. 165, or again, if it's a female. So I've got to work kind of both sides. Okay, or catch yourself when you're getting aggressive. Okay, I need to slow it down. We're not at pants. We're in the gym and we're supposed to be learning. So there's kind of both sides of that. And look, none of this is about me being I have plenty to learn. I am not the best in my gym at any level. This is just, kind of, I always kind of like to understand the mindset of the other people, of the people on the other side, and get get the Jiu Jitsu Dummies. I'm the dummy here. I want to learn. This is about me kind of asking questions and learning, even when somebody might say, "Well, you should know this already. What do you just ask somebody to roll?" I do like to get into people's heads a little bit and understand it. So that's why I asked the question. But, again, sometimes I'm working just as hard to be careful. You said, do I have a good reputation? Yes, but I'm the big guy. So my coach will be like, Milton, stop being a bully. Like I have that little bit of, that bully thing that follows me, like, because he says it, then I'm the bully. So I think that's what's kind of drawn me back a little bit from, like, I don't want to be the bully. I don't want to hear that. I'll say, you want to roll. And I know that I am great at letting somebody attack. The smaller person, I'm usually going to pull guard. I'm going to let them attack. I'm going to let them work. And I might catch them in something, but I'm not going to make the same effort as I would of somebody of, some around the same weight or experience.
One thing I like to say is people think, oh, you have to train differently with a female versus a male. Well, that's not necessarily true. You have to train differently for every single person you roll with. I'm going to roll differently with someone who's a white belt, someone who's a small white belt versus a big white belt versus a strong white belt versus a white belt that was a wrestler versus a, hobbyist purple belt, someone who just wants to come in and, be physical and have the camaraderie. I'm going to have to roll differently with a professional black belt competitor versus, so everyone that you roll with is going to be different. And just like with
it's a different puzzle
that you can be serious or not.
It's a different puzzle every time. You said puzzles before. You were talking about puzzles.
It is
a
different
puzzle every time.
I love puzzles.
Yeah.
But so you find that out. And honestly, it's a lot of social, which it sticks out to me because I have social anxiety too. So I'm constantly, just like you, wondering, what is that other person thinking? Yeah. What is that other person feeling? Because I never, there's a lot of people. Marcelo Garcia has a great story. He used to yell at me for having rest rounds. And I was like, I don't know how to go to the bathroom, or, everyone was taken, and then I start taking it really personally, and I'm like, they didn't want to roll with me. So he goes, Erin, no one liked rolling with me when I was coming up because I rolled so hard. And he goes, you have to make them roll with you. Yeah. So basically, Marcelo was the bully and did not care, because he knew that he was also an asset because he was, tough and good. And he was just a driven guy, obviously really good. But, he would beat everyone up and they didn't want to roll with him. So there's so many different reasons and, that people don't want to roll with you, or don't want to roll in general, or don't want to roll with the person like you. And it's hard not to take it personally. Yeah. Very, very hard, but everyone's a different person, and how you speak to someone is going to be different. You're going to go, hey, dick, versus hello, how are you? I mean, in the same way. Korea was very big on manners and polite. And when you go on the mat, you shake everyone's hand and you say, how are you? And everyone would do it, but a lot of times it felt fake. Or when he would come on the mat, you're like, okay, I'm great. How are you? When Korea comes and shakes your hand, and it sort of just makes you like nervous, and I realized that, yes, it's good to have boundaries and to have manners on the mat. But at the same time, I'm like, sometimes I just want to go in and roll. I don't want to have to be a senator every time I step on the mat,
So are you going to be competing again? We talked about competing a few times,
So when I wasn't really training, I was trying to train a little bit here and there. Ian Sanders had opened a gym, and it was like me and him. He's a really good black belt, but a lot of just white belts. And I decided to go on submissions on the shore. They were doing all female events, and it was more so like, wow, not only is not like no one having events in COVID, this is an all female thing. So I did that about 2 weeks in a row. They invited me on again, lost both times. I lost my first match on the first one, and the second one was a bracket, and I won my first, lost the second. And it's hard not to feel like, oh God, I'm a black belt and I just lost to a purple belt. Fatima Klein, she just got signed with Invicta. She heel hooked me. She was smaller than me. I felt like I could do anything to her, and I just let her heel hook me, and I was like, oh crap. But I hadn't been training. And then I got invited that same weekend that I fought on submission on the shore to be on Submission Underground, Chael Sonnens. And so that was more of like, oh, well, I love Amanda Lowen. She's a great competitor, great person, and she needs to have a fight. So I'll give her the match, and I'll get paid either way, whether I win or I lose. Lost that one. That was on Fight Pass. So, I'm like, okay, well, in the last 3 weeks, I competed 3 times and I lost 3 times. That was really, really hard. But again, I'm not really part of any gym except for Dynamics, which is mostly MMA. So I choose not to subscribe anymore in the politics. I sort of took a step back from Cobrinhas. I'm no longer going there. It was just it was so intense. And I always felt like I was never putting in enough. And it's not the place where you go if you want to compete and also take the undertrained route versus the overtrained route. And in Hamelo, I tried going back with him, and he's like, well, you got to wear a Gracie Baja gi. You got to sign up for Gracie Baja. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do that. So it's been really difficult for me to find a place where I feel like I can just go in and be respected for who I am, what I've done, and not have to subscribe. And so competing in the future, I mean, I would more so want it to be MMA, but if I did it, it would be for like a good cause if I competed again, because I'm not training heavily. Do I want to? Yeah, because I'm trying to pass the firefighter physical test. If I still want to go that route and I have to pass the physical, which is extremely hard, I have to be in shape, and I'm not the person that just goes in my backyard and lifts those weights by myself. It has to be part of like a group, or someone telling me what to do, or just simply having fun like in jiu-jitsu and then getting in shape in the meantime. So competing is not necessarily on my radar right now. Right now it's trying to take this time to go back to school, to pursue career options that will allow me to still have my passions. I'm looking into doing a master's program for sports psychology, because mental health, sport, right? The Stigma is both. It's combining the two, and realizing, just like you, I like coaching. I really like helping people, even if it's just that one little concept that they need in their training or their mindset. So I struggled a lot with my competition. I lose because I get nervous. I lose because I don't think I'm enough. Kuni, my dog. But I lose because I'm not in the right headspace. I'm not confident. I don't think I belong there. There's so many things that go into it. And I had a sports psychologist for a bit, but for me, I think I'm better off being that person for someone else. I'm a really good cheerleader. A lot of people can attest to that, but doing it myself, I always wanted to be the black belt world champion, always. And then I remember I was competing and I was at the Worlds, my first time as a black belt, and I looked around and I go, I don't really relate to these people. Like, I know I don't have to be one of you to win and be a black belt world champion, but I'm not willing to take the sacrifices. And that goes down to, no family time, no this. I did that. It didn't really work as well because I'm still a nervous wreck when I fight. But when you're like, all right, well, that person's doing steroids and that person's, doing this sacrifice, and that person doesn't get sleep because they believe that, we got to be there all day and train all day. And if you feel feverish because you're overtraining, or you lose relationships, or things in your life are suffering, like, that's not a sacrifice that I'm willing to make anymore. I'm 31 now. I want to have a family. I want to have all those things. And I did that for the 10 years, and all of my 20s was spent towards jiu-jitsu. And I didn't get to where I wanted to be necessarily, but I also started out as a white belt saying, I want to be a black belt world champion. So everything I did was that. Yeah.
I'm not doing talking. I'm telling my producer to take a picture. If you saw that, I'm like, take a picture.
Oh my God.
So we did a podcast earlier today. I told you we had one other one today with Brandon McCatherine. And he kind of said something. He kind of just said what you said. He's an Eddie Bravo black belt, and it's like, basically, his jiu-jitsu is for him. His jiu-jitsu is not about proving that I'm the best. It's, I know I'm good. I don't have to prove it anymore. And I think that it sounds to me like, again, I started jiu-jitsu later in life, but jiu-jitsu's always been for me. I competed a very little bit in the beginning up until I had a heart attack. I competed once after that, and then I just kind of said, it's just not the same. My cardio is not the same. I can't get it to the same place. The meds that I was on. But doesn't mean I quit jiu-jitsu. It just means I'm going to find the right place for me. I'm at a gym where people can compete, and you don't have to compete. We train together. We have people that compete come in, and you can go down to Miami and train in Cyborg's gym, and that's great. We have access to that. You don't have to pay anything more. Just go down. It's available to you. My jiu-jitsu is for me. And I'm not scared to say that. People want to label us as hobbyists. Great. I'm a hobbyist. This is what I bring to jiu-jitsu is spreading the word like this, and awarding jiu-jitsu scholarships to kids, which we've done. It's for me. I not no longer, because I definitely did not get to the level that you've gotten in competition and what Brandon's done, but this is for me. This is my experience, and nobody's going to tell me what my experience can be. So I'm a hobbyist. I'm hopefully, maybe one day I'll compete when I can, do jiu-jitsu full time. But until I could do that's not happening, because you need to be training a lot more than I do to get on that mat. But yeah, I mean, you kind of said something along the lines of what Brendan said. I have nothing to prove to anybody. I'm at this point in my jiu-jitsu, and it's about me having fun every day and going to do what I love. He's like, it's like playing pickup basketball. I get to go and play pickup basketball at my gym every single day. I'm rolling around doing jiu-jitsu with people that I love, and that's good enough for me. And that's all I need from this, so it's kind of a similar answer.
And I will say that I'm not at that level yet. I am still kind of like mourning the loss of not getting to that point.
Okay.
But also, yeah, right now, of course, I'm a hobbyist for sure. But I always felt like within myself, like I wanted to be a star. I had something to prove. I wanted to be the one that everybody's talking about. I want to have the most followers on Instagram. I want to have the interviews, and I want people to be sharing my stuff all the time, saying I'm their idol. And you can't really force that. And it's not like I can't continue to do that. I mean, I could take a couple of years off, go to school, and get right back to it, right? Mm-hmm. But it's definitely like I'm still kind of like parting with that, because there's still a part of me that's like, I want to be somebody, but I can't. I'm giving what I can.
So what is what you're saying? You do want to get back to that competition scene, though. You do have that itch still.
I don't want to do the work.
Yeah. well, my point is going to be, there's another part of that question, is being where you've gotten to, or getting to where you've gotten in jiu-jitsu, and now bringing kind of like what I'm saying, I'm bringing the podcast, I'm bringing the foundation. Do you think that Submit the Stigma fills that? Like, you're still bringing something to the world, or do you really need the competition side as well to make you feel a certain way about jiu-jitsu or about yourself? Can it be like, well, I may not do that, and I might not have gotten to exactly where I want, but look at this thing that I did. I brought the Submit the Stigma. I'm helping people in this way through jiu-jitsu. Isn't that more valuable than becoming a champion and doing it for myself versus doing this thing for other people?
It is. And I'm almost there. And I know that people idolize me for that reason, for being vulnerable, for being transparent about my mental health. And I'm going to help a lot more people. I know that. And I've helped a lot of people. I mean, I have so much validation, but for whatever reason, it comes down to wanting to be cool. I swear to you. I swear that's what it is. Yeah. Like, I just want to be cool. I want people to be like, she's so cool. I want to be like her. Like, I don't think I could ever do that because she achieved this. I don't think I could ever do that.
But I mean, I think I think you'll always have people that'll look at you that way, because how many people really always get to that pinnacle of anything they do, jiu-jitsu or otherwise, right? Somebody's got to win. There's only going to be like that one champion, it's, but that's also what you just described, how you just describe yourself, is what makes a champion. Somebody that has that, it's like, I have to achieve that. I'm not going to feel complete unless I do. But I mean, I would say to you, you do have women that look up to you, and you're going to have, and guys that look up to you and look at what you've done and what you've accomplished. And then again, for me as a business person, a podcaster, somebody who runs a foundation, I look at what you're doing, again, wow, she started Submit the Stigma. I could do this. Well, my thing could be like that. So I'm looking at you like that too. This is new for us. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, I love talking to people who can make me feel a certain way about continuing what I'm doing, and it almost validates what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Again, I think with jiu-jitsu, because we're this kind of weird, like, community, like the community's so big, but so small. Like I'm still sometimes I look at my phone and the people that I have in my phone now, it's just like odd to see the names that I have in there of people that we've spoken to or that we're going to speak to. But I look at what I'm doing, and I forget the coach. I had a higher belt say something like this to me. It's just like, Felipe, really talking about, I just want to spread the word of jiu-jitsu. And I know a lot of people say that, but he really does. He encourages you out to go out there and get the knowledge. If I come in and, I've said, hey, can we have this guy come in, Warriors Next Adventures coming in a couple of months to do some filming. And I was like, he wants to do kind of an open mat with us. Let's put this together. I feel so good about we spread the word. I put 2 more people together that didn't know each other. I love that side. I love helping somebody who might, maybe have a problem paying with jiu-jitsu or could just be, kind of feel validated in what they're doing. Like we had a young girl who's raising money with Tap Cancer Out. Her mother has cancer and we awarded her a scholarship. It was like, keep on doing what you're doing, young lady. Like keep on doing that. And we gave her the scholarship. Like, I feel like I'm bringing, this isn't me tooting my horn. I feel just as good about bringing those things to jiu-jitsu because, I'm not in my 20s. I'm not going to be doing competition for, from my 20s to my 30s. I'm on the tail end of what most people's involvement in jiu-jitsu. It's like, well, when I'm 40, I'm barely going to the gym. And meanwhile, I'm at 40 going, I just want to get to the gym more. So I kind of feel like in our world, because it's so small, it's so big and so small at the same time, that just bringing anything to jiu-jitsu, the furtherment of jiu-jitsu, is that a word? Furtherment? Yeah. Furtherment of jiu-jitsu is such a good thing. So hats off to you for what you've done and what you're doing. Yeah, and, so I know that when we spoke, Submit the Stigma may not have been like completely on the forefront of what you were doing. Where is that in your life right now? Are you still pushing forth with that? Is there anything you want to tell us about that?
It started as a campaign. So it started as me holding up a sign that said #Submit the Stigma mental illness. Mm-hmm. It was about bringing mental health awareness to jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. Because just with, like I told you, like I overtrained a lot. There was a lot of just like, nope, you got to be here no matter what, and me feeling like there's literally no perfect excuse as to why I can't train. It wasn't okay to say I'm tired. It wasn't okay to say, you know what, I'm really sore. It wasn't okay to say all those things. And my mental health deteriorated because of that. And also through jiu-jitsu, I learned about myself and my mental illnesses and how to get help and all those things. I took that journey because of the confidence I got from jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. Now I want to bring it to a more grandiose scale. What I did was I took mental health to jiu-jitsu. Now I want to take jiu-jitsu to mental health. So ideally I would do it right this time. Even though we've been a 501c3 registered since 2016, I believe, I really want to make it big. I want to have a board of directors. I want to have an executive plan, a strategic plan. I want to have fundraising, and I want to do something where we're looking to psychiatrists and psychologists and saying, hey, why don't you get your clients involved in jiu-jitsu? Because it's very, very therapeutic. And it's when it's side by side with professional help. My whole thing has been jiu-jitsu is not therapy. It's therapeutic, but it is not therapy. It does not take the place of professional help. And I've always tried to get people, go to professional help. That's what you need, whether it's medication, whether it's cognitive, therapy, just talking things out. There's so many different ways to go about that, but care about your mental health, because that's what's going to win you tournaments. That's what's going to keep you on the map. It's like, I had to yell at people to be like, go to the doctor. Your knee hurts. Training on it isn't going to help. You're just going to,
So that doesn't help?
It's stubborn.
But, it's work through the pain.
And it's like, dude, if you feel like you've physically prepared, but yet you get so nervous, you shit your pants before you get on the mat, like, that's something that can be addressed. You can go to a doctor for that. You can figure that out. So now what I want to do is make it really grand and get a network of psychologists that will be ambassadors for jiu-jitsu, rather than just having ambassadors in jiu-jitsu that are also involved in mental health. I think it's time to take it to a more like clinical level. And it's never been about money for me. And that's why we had these talks, and, they're like, well, where's the money go? And I'm like, well, nowhere yet. I ship out patches, I ship out shirts, things like that. But we aren't running seminars. We aren't doing webinars. We aren't doing those things that I used to take was education. I just want to educate, make people aware, make people comfortable to just be like, you know what? I'm really anxious right now, and I don't think I can do that role. Just anything that is self-preservation. And above all, what you were talking about is with people and like the betterment of jiu-jitsu and furthering it. I always care about being a good person. When there were people who were champions, but they were dicks, I mean, I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it. Those were the people that were getting the most sponsors. Those are the people that were getting the most, the biggest platform for their voice, and they weren't using it. And so that's what I wanted. And initially, when I went into MMA, like I said, when I started jiu-jitsu, I wanted to be a black belt world champion. if I started MMA saying I want to be the UFC champion, I mean, that's such a slim chance that it's going to get to that point. It would ignore everything that I would do on the way, and it would ignore any accomplishments on the way. So I never wanted to have this grandiose destination. I want to have a destination. My only thing was I wanted to get in the UFC so I could win a fight and have Joe Rogan talk to me. So one, I could say, Fear Factor brought my family together at dinner time. I love you for that. But also being able to speak about mental health and bring Submit the Stigma on that stage, because there are a lot of people who find MMA, find jiu-jitsu, find martial arts because their mental health. They needed something. They needed something to help them. And so, yeah, they came in for the right reasons, but sometimes when they're not in the right gym, when they're not able to understand why they're feeling a certain way, that martial art actually ends up not helping them. And for me, it made me very bitter. Being in the competition scene made me bitter about it. So Submit the Stigma, I want to grow it. I want it to be a board of directors. I want it to have an actual nonprofit. So I'm taking a course online right now on nonprofit management. Very cool. And from there, if I go through sports psychology, then, that just opens up.
Bring everything together.
Being a mental coach is huge. So I want to be there for other people who like, I have the potential. I have the potential to be a black belt world champion. I know that, but I couldn't put it all together. And if I could do that for someone else who feels that they have it in them to be this world champion, and then have them be a good person and use that platform, I mean, I just, my heart, like, I can't wait.
That's awesome. Well, anything that we can do here on the show, anytime you want to come back on, if you've got, when you're ready to talk about stuff or something's launching or you have an event or anything, just keep us in the loop. Let us know. We'll always have you back on. But I'm not going to let you go. We're going to do a little speed round of questions. These are just, I call it a speed round. Doesn't mean that you have to answer them quickly. I'm just going to let you answer them, though. If we want to elaborate, we can. We ask these, what do we got? About 6 questions or variations of these that we ask typically almost every guest. So, okay, we're going to go with the first one is, if you could go back in time, what would you tell the white belt you?
Stop crying.
Why were you crying?
I was the only girl and no one understood me.
Okay. All right. So number 2, other than achieving the rank of black belt, what is your ultimate goal in jiu-jitsu? I think we just kind of spoke about that a little bit with Submit the Stigma.
Just being a good person and showing that you can get to that level and be a good person at the same time.
Beautiful. Perfect. What's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you? The jiu-jitsu related thing that's happened to you on the mat or in competition?
Oh God. Honestly, that's a really hard question. Because I don't have to go like the embarrassing route.
We've had them both. We've had oil checks. We've had people throwing up. I think we might have had somebody poop in their pants a little bit. Anything, whatever you want to share.
What was the word? What kind of experience?
What's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you?
Craziest. God, that's so subjective.
Weirdest, craziest, oddest. That all fits.
Oh, I will say, okay, we'll make it a good thing. So when I went to Toronto, I used to go to Canada for all the Adhd trials. Nowadays, it's you go to all the different tournaments and you get ranked, and then that's who gets the travel package. But at the time, it was you had to go to this event, you had to win this division, and then you had to win the open division to get the ticket. And so we would go to Canada because we were on the East Coast at the time. And I went there, and there was a girl getting a documentary filmed about her. And she was a pro belt. She was in my division. And I'm thinking, okay, like I'm in the final with her. I have to beat her to get the ticket. But if I don't beat her in a good fashion, then of course it's a Canadian ref. I'm in Canada. It's Canadian organization, right? They want her to win. She got a documentary about her. And the whole match, she was going double unders. And I was just like defending, trying to do something. So it was a really, really close match. And I was like, of course I didn't get it, so I'm waiting to get my hand raised. All of a sudden they choose me, and I just like drop. And so I have these pictures of me just like freaking out, running to Gianni.
We're going to do a screen capture of that face right there, just so you know.
The girl just does that. I have plenty of those when I'm competing. And so my brother-in-law actually made a picture. So from Anchorman, when all of the anchors are jumping up, Photoshop me in it because it looks like I'm just like, oh my God. So yeah, that was an amazing experience. Also, it was like being the the person who wasn't supposed to win, who won, and that was like my 3rd or 4th trip to Abu Dhabi. So
Did that documentary ever come out? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. It was in Canada. I should ask her.
They scrapped
right?
it. They scrapped it.
Yeah, I crushed your dreams.
They were like, okay, cut.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
it's a wrap.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the athletic journey and the downfalls and the the ups and downs, and I gave her the down part.
You ruined her experience.
It was a good Photoshop.
You ruined her life.
Okay, next question is, what is your biggest regret as it relates to jiu-jitsu? This is always the hardest one, just so you know. I've actually moved it from number 1 to number 4 because it's always hard.
Yeah, but it takes a warm up.
Yeah,
right?
What is your biggest regret as it relates to jiu-jitsu?
I would say that I didn't start teaching at a place because being like I did like a whole European tour as a brown belt female. That was huge. And mostly just because I asked for it. I said, hey, can I teach a seminar? Can I teach a seminar? I mean, I pushed it. I went hard. So even when I got an Australia tour, I had black belt female world champions going, how did you get that many seminars? Right? So just because you're good doesn't mean that you're going to get the opportunities. And then realizing that the seminars I really enjoyed teaching, I was always afraid to commit to teaching at one place. So I wish that I had that experience because I've been a black belt since 2017 and I have no one under me. I don't know what it's like to teach someone throughout their journey. I don't know what it's like to have a white belt come in and be like, I know nothing. How do I start? I don't know. And I plan to one day have a curriculum for that, but I don't know what that's like. And I've been part of it. I've coached teammates. I've done those things, but I've never had someone under me because I was afraid to commit. And I've had opportunities to teach at gyms, but I was like, ew, that sounds boring. I'd rather go to a different place every time to teach. So I wish I had that experience now.
Okay. That's a great answer. I feel that again, that you, I think we're alike in that we like imparting knowledge. That's a big part of, it seems like a big part of your personality. And that's mine too. As a matter of fact, Felipe, before the quarantine, was talking to everybody about, hey, how you doing? I was in New York. I told you. He's talked about who wanted to coach, and then COVID came, and he was like, I'm going to start doing these coaching classes. I was like, I'm in, and then COVID. Okay. Sure. This is the last question. Okay. Now, this is going to be probably one of the most important questions. Everybody's probably getting sick of me saying it this way. This is probably one of the most important questions that you will ever answer in your jiu-jitsu career. It doesn't matter what you've done or what you're going to do. This is the most important question here. This is the one that everybody stayed tuned to this point in the podcast to get the answer on.
I got to deliver.
Do you or do you not wash your belt?
I do.
Yes! 2 team wash your belts today. No, there's a problem with the answer, though, because the only time anybody tells me they wash their belt is when I'm doing the podcast by myself, so I don't get to rub it in the faces of my non-belt washing co-host.
I'm rubbing them proverbially.
Gross. So when I was a white belt, I think I did it, but everyone's gross at white belt. They're still learning. But especially as a black belt, maybe not every time, but after maybe 2 or 3, absolutely. It does not wash your knowledge away. If your knowledge was washed away because you put your belt in a washing machine, I would say that really questions your knowledge in the first place.
You just send the belt to the competition.
It's gross. I've had staph probably 10 times. Oh. I am very susceptible to it.
I had my first one this year.
All the time, okay? All the time. I get impetigo, staph, rashes. I have eczema. I'm not taking chances. Yeah. And it's very, very easy to spread stuff. So, yeah, that's just...
Thank you.
Gross, people.
Yes.
That's gross.
Yes.
I mean, there are plenty other weird
I'm saying.
Things, but when it affects other people, you're gross.
There you go. Awesome. Lastly, do you have any shout-outs, sponsors, anybody you want to say hello to? This is your time.
So, Submit the Stigma is stigma.org. You can go check out there. I've been meaning to make a new website. It has, right now, all it is a story of my dad's life, the way he didn't get help and the way that it ended in suicide. But I'm trying to move it away from that. I'm trying to move it less about my dad and my personal experiences because I have so many stories. There are stories on the Instagram for Submit the Stigma. If you go there, you will read about people just like you who have used jiu-jitsu for therapeutic reasons or have gone through stuff and how they've triumphed because of jiu-jitsu. And also Hyperfly, I've been with them for 5 years. They've been the best. The only gi I will ever wear is the Hyperlight because I can travel, compete in it, everything like that. So shout out to them. I actually use their fanny pack instead of a purse.
Mhm.
Again, going with that whole tomboy thing. Weird, I don't know. I have a boyfriend, I swear. But so just with the Sigma, Hyperfly are my biggest ones, and Technique. I just signed up on Technique. Please go on there and get my brilliant advice because no one has yet because I haven't been pushing it enough. But if you are on Technique, I mean, if you will get knowledge, of course. I got a lot of knowledge. I've trained with many world champions, but also I'm pretty funny. So if you want a good time and you want to learn, I got you.
Technique.io, everyone. It's on Instagram at technique.io, and the website is technique.io, TEKNEEK. I think I said it before to you that they are a sponsor of the show as well. We've had some fun doing some reviews at the end of the episodes. So we're doing that every once in a while. So, all right, listen, I'm going to let you go. We're going to wrap it up on this end. Thank you so much for doing this. Again, open invitation. Anytime you want to come on, anything you want to talk about, or I don't care if you don't have anything going on. I'm sure there's plenty of other things we could talk about. We could shoot the shit about jiu-jitsu. Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And I'll tag. We have the first episode we did today will come out next Tuesday, Wednesday. And then you're going to come out the next week. So it'll be a week before this comes out. We put them out once a week. We're at 3 a month now is usually how we do it. So we kind of put at least a week between them. Yeah. So again, thank you. I'll tag you. We'll stay in touch and appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Am I hanging up now?
Yes. Okay. I'm going to do everyone else is going to stick around and we're going to do a little housekeeping, go over our sponsors.
Got it.
Thank you, Erin. Right. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Awesome. She was fun.
Very cool.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She's funny.
I love her. I think we could have stayed on if you hadn't told me we're running out of space on our
That's
on our
why
SD card.
I said it because I could see that just.
I would have kept on going.
We could be here all night
awesome.
just chatting away.
Yeah,
so.
No, you know me. I love talking jiu-jitsu, man.
Well, we got 5 left, so.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna do. Let me just put on our logo scroll.
Frol and roll.
And we'll make sure it's looping.
He's a frol and roll.
Okay, and that's it. And we'll do our little housekeeping bit. All right, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around. As always, if you want to support the foundation, check out the GoFundMe link in the description, either on the podcast or on YouTube. You can always go to @Jiu-Jitsu Dummies on Instagram and just click on the link in our bio. It has access to everything that we're doing, anything that you want to suggest a guest, you want to support us on Amazon Smile, everything that we do, it's all there. If that's too confusing and you want to donate to the foundation, on Instagram, go to the JJD Foundation, or on Facebook, just facebook.com/ and then just type out the Jiu Jitsu Dummies Foundation. You can actually donate. There's a donate button at the top of the page on both of those. You can donate directly through. And anyone that donates $50, or for every $50, I should say, for every $50 you donate, you can get a free embroidered belt or a coffee mug. Bo, show them the mug. It's actually that's the older mug with the older version of the logo. There is a newer version that looks similar, but the foundation is a different font. You can get a mug or an embroidered belt. I was going to say an embroidered mug. That wouldn't work.
An embroidered belt to watch.
Check out the podcast store, jiujitsudummies.shop. Get 15% off with code JJD. We put up a new podcast t-shirt. We've got face shields, backpacks, coffee mugs, rash guards, ranked rash guards. So you got everything there. All of that stuff helps support the show. Free shipping on orders over $50. Don't forget to check out Fight Back CBD. Again, Bo, give them a shot. Fight Back CBD. Mm-hmm. We're getting they've also got bath bombs. They've got roll-on CBD. We're going to get some more of the products to show here, but it's not just the bottles of CBD. Everybody check out all of their products, and you get 20% off your online order with code JJD.
We need to fill that up a little more. There's kind of sparse.
No, it's coming, but we're just waiting on Justin.
We really appreciate it.
It was crazy out there in Texas. He's in Texas,
I
so they just went through the freeze.
Oh, he's still alive.
I mentioned Amazon Smile again. You can go to Amazon, go to your settings, update it to Amazon Smile, and a portion of every purchase of every one of your Amazon purchases will give us it's like 0.05% of your overall purchase. It goes directly to the foundation. And what does the foundation do? We award scholarships to kids, first responders, and veterans. Okay. So we've got 2 sponsored children so far that are both getting 1-year scholarships. We've been paying for their jiu-jitsu every single month, but we're going to also get a veteran scholarship out very soon. All right. Uncle Milty BJJ on Instagram. That is Bo.
Yo.
Go ahead, give him a handle, whichever handle. Lefty, yours.
Let's do at handy_wisdom on IG.
And you'll get to meet his alter ego.
My alter ego.
All right, guys, listen, we're going to let you go. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. Us.